The poem opens with the narrator reminiscing about a hypothetical encounter in a bar, imagining himself sitting and sharing a drink with a man who, in another life, could have been a friend. This imaginative setting contrasts sharply with the actual circumstances under which they met. The bar represents a place of camaraderie and social interaction, far removed from the violence and hostility of the battlefield. By starting the poem in this manner, Hardy immediately juxtaposes the common, everyday social interactions with the extraordinary and deadly encounters of war. The narrator emphasizes the potential for friendship, suggesting that in any other situation, he and the man he killed could have shared stories, laughed, and bonded over drinks. This imagined camaraderie serves to humanize the enemy and strip away the facelessness that war imposes on soldiers. By envisioning this scenario, the narrator is able to see the man as more than just an adversary, but as a person with whom he could have had a meaningful connection. This thought underscores the arbitrary nature of their enmity, brought on solely by their positions as opposing soldiers. In stark contrast to the imagined scene, the reality of their encounter is brutal and impersonal. The narrator recounts how he shot the man during a battle, a moment driven by survival and duty rather than personal hatred. This direct act of killing, face to face, emphasizes the intimate brutality of war, where soldiers are forced to confront their actions on a deeply personal level. The battlefield strips away the possibility of friendship, leaving only the cold necessity of kill or be killed. After the fatal encounter, the narrator reflects on the reasons behind his actions. He acknowledges that he shot the man simply because they were on opposing sides, with no personal animosity fueling his decision. This realization brings to light the futility of their conflict, as their roles as enemies are defined by circumstances beyond their control. The narrator's introspection highlights the senselessness of their situation, where individuals are compelled to fight and kill each other for reasons that are ultimately meaningless to them on a personal level. The narrator delves into the imagined life of the man he killed, picturing him as someone much like himself. He envisions the man as a regular person who joined the army out of necessity, perhaps due to economic hardship or unemployment. This shared humanity intensifies the tragedy of their encounter, as it underscores the commonalities between them that are overshadowed by their roles as soldiers. By imagining the man's life, the narrator brings a human face to the enemy, making his death all the more poignant and unnecessary. The poem explores the absurdity of war, highlighting how it forces ordinary individuals into extraordinary and violent circumstances. The narrator's reflections reveal a deep sense of irony in their situation, as they are made enemies by circumstances that neither of them controlled. This absurdity is underscored by the fact that in a different context, they could have been friends, emphasizing the arbitrary nature of the divisions created by war. Hardy uses this irony to critique the very foundations of war, questioning its logic and purpose. The narrator repeatedly stresses that he bore no personal ill will towards the man he killed. This lack of personal hatred underscores the impersonal nature of war, where soldiers are compelled to act out of duty rather than personal conviction. The absence of animosity makes the act of killing seem even more senseless, as it reveals how war forces individuals into roles of enemies without any real basis for their conflict. The narrator's reflections on this point highlight the moral ambiguity and ethical dilemmas faced by soldiers. The narrator briefly touches on the societal expectations and pressures that drive individuals to join the army. He suggests that many soldiers, like himself, might enlist due to economic necessity rather than any deep-seated patriotism or belief in the cause they are fighting for. This insight adds another layer to the poem's critique of war, as it reveals how societal and economic pressures can lead to participation in conflicts that individuals may not fully understand or support. The narrator's acknowledgement of these factors emphasizes the complex motivations behind enlistment and the broader social context in which war occurs. Throughout the poem, The narrator grapples with a deep sense of emotional conflict and lingering guilt over his actions. His reflections are filled with regret and sorrow, as he contemplates the life he took and the reasons behind it. This emotional turmoil highlights the psychological impact of war on soldiers, who must live with the moral consequences of their actions. The narrator's internal struggle adds a poignant dimension to the poem, revealing the heavy burden carried by those who have experienced combat. The Man He Killed delivers a powerful universal message about the senselessness and human cost of war. Through the narrator's introspection, Hardy critiques the dehumanizing effects of war, which force individuals into acts of violence against their better nature. The poem's simple, conversational tone belies the profound themes it explores, inviting readers to reflect on the arbitrary and destructive nature of conflict. Hardy's work ultimately calls into question the very foundations of war, urging a deeper consideration of its true cost on the human soul.